Everybody, it's Annette from the Art of Intuition, and today we are going to delve into what happens when we're clearing a program, what happens when we get triggered, how deep we have to go on that, and how many layers it is, and how if we get in our head about things, that we get in our head when we get triggers. I don't even usually use the word that much because I feel like it's been overdone at this point. Everyone uses it, and I don't know if it fits sometimes with what it gets used for in the collectives when it gets used. So I want to kind of bring that back in today. And I was going to do this on a live, but I kind of thought the video might be a little bit better than actually doing a live on it because I wanted to really be able to. Videos are a little bit easier than the lives are, and I wanted to really be able to kind of dive into this and give it the time and space it needs, however that's going to be. Maybe it won't be very long, maybe it will be really long, I don't know. What happens when, and a trigger just means we're bothered. It's that simple. Everyone will think, what does that mean? It just means something happens and we get bothered by it. I did a video about whether we're really not really bothered or we're just trying to ignore it, because our human will always try to ignore things. When we are just simply not bothered by something, that means we've cleared it within our body. We don't hold it anymore. We don't have the frequency anymore. But a lot of times we'll be going through our ascension process and even our awakening process. When in our awakening, we really don't know so much what's going on. We can't even really identify. When we're in our human consciousness pre-awakening, we don't even know what a trigger is, really. We know more the human definition of that, but we still kind of put on something outside. We still attach it to the outside thing. We still want to get all bogged down on the human reason and that outside thing happened and what's the outside thing going to do? And it's all outside. And we don't bridge the gap in a sense that it's inside. It's not about outside. It's not about who did it or what they did. It's about what it triggers inside. It's about what happens with us when this thing just played out, whatever it is. Whether it was something somebody said, whether it was something someone, and we're going to play in this for a second, what somebody did. We can get very focused, even in our ascension, we can get focused on the outside. I had a situation come up it's been about almost 3 weeks. And I've kind of sat with it for 3 weeks because I was really trying to dig to what it was really about. Because we'll start out with anything that bothers us, and okay, we've been triggered. Okay, what's triggered? Is it fear? Is it guilt? Is it shame? Is it blame? Is it anger? Is it judgment? Judgment is normally at the bottom level of it. The more we dig into it, we'll get to judgment. Judgment of ourselves, and obviously, and judgment of others. We can't really hold judgment. We can't be judged if we don't hold judgment. But judgment is a thing we clear, and then we clear another level of it, and we clear another level of it. We'll continue to clear judgment. Judgment is not something that all of a sudden it's clear. We work on these things repeatedly to clear them from the body, because the body's vibration is what brings us into the new realities. It's not about anything beyond that. It's the body. We have to clear the body, clear it from the body. So we get faced with situations where we do that. But our human wants to kind of jump. Our human's going to get into it because it just got triggered. When we get triggered, it's our human being triggered. Our soul doesn't get triggered. Our human gets triggered. And when our human gets triggered, then, okay, now we're triggered. Now I've got all this stuff coming up. What do I do now? And this is where, a lot of people, depending on what consciousness they're in, can have different opinions on what we do now. For me, I got to go into it. I got to see what's going on. And I might spend 30, 40 minutes bitching about whatever it was outside that did it. But we have to understand these things do happen because they're supposed to trigger us. These things are happening to get us to the next level. They're not just happening to piss us off. In a sense they are, but there's a bigger reason here. These things have to be cleared. And we're seeing a lot of that now because we're getting to that time of year where, we're starting to set up and sometimes starting to do the templates for the next year. Finishing out our old templates, whatever we were working on this year is coming to a head now. So it's like, okay, you've been doing this all year. Now here's a big test. Look at it more. Sometimes it's a test. Can you get to the bottom of this? But not a bottom of this in a sense of it might be all gone. You still might be working through it years later, but this could be a big the bigger the trigger, the bigger the program. And sometimes the deeper in we have to go. And sometimes it could take a longer years and years to clear it. We have to look at what's our pattern, what's our theme, what we normally do, what would our human have done in this situation. And sometimes I'll go through and get a lot of information on a human level about this situation, But normally that's just me spending energy to an extent. I mean, there is a thing about being aware of what's going on and aware of different things that we have to make sure that's not rooted in fear when we are gathering information when we've had something happen that we need to deal with. But it's always deeper than that. It's not the outside thing. And I want to make sure I stress that enough to say it's not about the thing out there. It's not about what someone else did. And it's not about them. It's not about their consciousness or what they're playing in. Yes, they might not be at a conscious level to see, they might not be an awakening or an ascension. And that's fine. That has nothing to do with us. In a sense, that's not our issue. Where they are in their life it really pertained to where we are. But the trigger does, and that's ours. They're doing us a service by doing it. They were supposed to do it. So when we try to point the finger at them and saying, oh, they're unconscious, they live in human reality, say this, say this, say that, it's greed, it's this, it's this, it's this. When we go through that iteration, we are clearing some of the energy around it, but we're not getting to the root cause of what's going on with us. And it's not about what we think it is. It's not about that relationship. It's not about, it's not about money. It's not about a home. It's not about a physical thing. It's not about, what my feelings got hurt. Okay, but why did our feelings get hurt? We can't just go to that first level and go, okay, it's about the money. It's about this thing. It's about that person. What is it? What is it? And our universe will sometimes withhold things we need to maybe align a reality till we can get to what is it? What is really going on? Why am I in this situation? Do I not want to share the situation with somebody else because I don't want their judgment? Because I don't want to bring up the old, some of the old arguments or some of the judgment of how, a lot of us who do the ascended, we go through different levels of ascension. We go through a lot of points where we do look crazy to people and we don't make a lot of sense to people while we do stuff. And it takes us a while to work through that because, you are ostracized and you do have your own judgment to work through when you start leaving human realities behind, because that's what kept you in them. There was a fear that kept you in them. There was some type of community, though a very distorted community, a distorted collective around staying there. But we have a lot of that embedded into our body about being judged. And especially if it's someone we have a cord of attachment to judging us, that's worse, If it's our parents or it's our spouses or, it's anyone, our deep connection we have with someone and we say, we don't want that. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to go through that. That's the point of it. It's not about the simple things. When we try to talk about it in a sense of, and what I've been doing, I don't think I've spun my wheels, but I think for about a week or so, I probably spent a couple of days spinning wheels. I mean, if I'm honest with myself about that, but it was also helping me kind of to get through the superficial layer of it. Okay. Now what do I do from A to B? Depending on if it's a situation you have had happen that you have to deal with. Is it a situation that, you don't have to deal with, what is really going on? And we can do a lot of different examples here. If we have an example where, you have to pay for something and you don't know how you're going to pay for it. Is it really about having to get something or because you want to pay a bill or whatever it is? This is an easy one because money brings up a lot of this stuff with us. So that's a good example to give. What do we do with that? If it's a large amount of money you don't have and someone that could assist you with that, do you ask? Is it about asking for the money? Is it about the judgment that might come with asking for the money? That's how deep we have to go. Is it what comes up with having to ask for that type of thing? Is it aligned to ask for it? Are we supposed to deal with this on our own? Is it more the judgment of other people and not the judgment of the person you're going to ask it from that we're more afraid of? Then we have to go a different way. Then we have to look, okay, why am I giving my power away? Judgment is always giving our power away. And I'm kind of focusing a little more on judgment here because even if you look at the court system, if you were looked at in what I'm going to say is derogatory way in human realities, the judgment goes down against you. The word has a very powerful connotation in human reality. So that's why it is kind of embedded in us about what do we do with certain things? How do I feel about certain things? And when we are letting other things keep us from doing things, we are, in a sense, we're going small, we're dimming our light. It's not even about the physical act, whether it's, maybe telling someone you want to get out of a relationship. It's not about the physical act of doing it. Sometimes it could be. There might be a piece of it that's sad. I can see a lot of different pieces and parts of things that they go into this. And it's not like it's that complicated. It's just that interwoven and that spider web together. It's not that, oh my God, it's so complicated. No, my mind tries to make it complicated. I try to put a lot on the outside world of different things that might happen. Our mind's going to complicate it, but it's really not complicated. It's just interwoven. There's a lot of pieces and parts to pulling it apart. And that's why when we get triggered, and if you're at a conscious where you can work through it immediately and move on, and there are very few people I know that can do that. There are some people who can do that. I'm not one of them that can do that. Not yet. I mean, I will say sometimes it depends on how rough the trigger is. I can recognize it's a trigger, but then I still might go through clearing the victim energy about why is this happening? Oh my God, there's going to be a piece of that in there. But you get to the core, and the real core, what are you more afraid of? Are you more afraid of A or are you more afraid of B? That's going to tell you more about the program we have running. Am I more afraid of the judgment of this person or the judgment of that person? Or am I more afraid of just setting and not doing anything? And is that scarier to me? Or is that less scary than having to do the other things? The biggest fear is where we got to go. What is the biggest fear and why? And it doesn't mean you might not even have to do the act of what you're afraid of. Sometimes you have to clear it. Sometimes you don't have to do it. You might be able to work through it and piece it out enough to go, okay, I see that now. I understand that now. I can see that it's my fear of having to go through that reality, the fear of judgment. And sometimes these people they might have judged us before. And I say that because we held the judgment and we felt the same way. That's the only reason they could do that. Or we wouldn't have registered it as judgment. We would have registered it as something more unconscious. An unconscious human, that's what would be said. But because we took it and we felt anything besides pure love, not human love for it, but pure divine love for it, then it is technically, it's a trigger, and it's on us to figure out why. It's on us to dive deeper, and it's not the superficial stuff. And when we get hung up on the superficial stuff, and you might for a little while, you might spin your wheels a little while on the superficial stuff, but you're still digging in it. But you have to get to where it starts to hurt a little bit emotionally. What is the emotion? What's the sadness there? What is the deal there? I was kind of getting to that before I came on, and I could feel the tears kind of wanting to come up. And I was like, well, let me put a pin in that because I don't want to be, have all the tears in the video. But I could feel it. I was getting to what it is, what it really is this whole thing is about. And it's not about the first 20 things I would have listed when I said this is what it's about. It's about the corruption of 3D. It's about the greediness of this. It's about this. It is all those things in a sense, but it's about me. All these things happen for us, and they're about us. They're not about other things. And we can try to we use the words to put it on other people, to distance ourselves from it. That's why you hear shadow. Shadow is a great example. It's their shadow side, or it's my shadow side. It kind of separates you out from what it really is. It separates you out from it being you owning it. No, it's my ego. No, something's going on with me. This is something I got to work through because the gold is working through it. And having the power to say, okay, that's not going to bother me anymore. Especially when you get to these really deep ones that you have seen your patterns and your themes over the years. Where someone might be judging you for something, and then maybe I'll tell a little bit of a lie so that their judgment stops, or they say, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't judge them so harshly. And we'll do those things in the beginning because we fear the full judgment and we can't handle it, so we might say things that aren't true. We might count on realities that aren't here yet. And I did a video regarding why when we do that, we kind of shoot the whole reality, because now we're coming from a different vibration. It's a more ego vibration. It's maybe you're saying things that haven't come in yet as a fear of what someone else would say to you when you're going through some of these realities. So we promise things that aren't here. We promise money we don't have. We promise something we don't have, mostly promise something we don't have. And that's a very human thing to do, but you're just kind of negating it. You're trying to soften the blow. It's that old adage in the human reality. So let's start with something positive before you get to the rough spot. That was all about how to write a, I think it was how to write a business letter in general is how I remember it, but it's also in anything. Let's start with the positive here. What is the biggest positive? You can start with, like, if you're leaving a relationship, well, it's not about you. It's about me. You try to start with the positive things, and those are the human twists we put on things. Let me try to soften the blow of what I really want here. And why do we really want it? And are we really done with the program? Are we really done with this? Are we really done with that? Are we done with our pattern, our theme? It's not about someone else's patterns or themes. That's theirs to work through. You might point something out to them if they ask, but a lot of times especially if they're in a different space and a different consciousness, they're going to be working through it their own way. That's why we always go back to, don't worry about where anybody else is, because they're not going to be where you are. They're not supposed to be where you are sometimes. They're somewhere else. They've got their own journey to go on. That's why a lot of our old relationships are gone, because they weren't aligned, and we shift frequencies so fast, we grow past them. In a sense, we go past those frequencies, and they have to go do their thing. And you might see people come back around years and years and years later, and then you can kind of reopen the reality and see, is there a point to it? What's coming in now? And you might see a lot of that now. You might see people starting to come in now that'll be a theme for next year. Maybe it's not one specific person, but one specific thing you're going to be working on next year. We have the boots on the ground stuff we'll be doing, and then we have the stuff we're going to be doing, working through different programs and how we're going to be doing that and what's really going on. A lot of the stuff is starting to show right now. And when we get triggered, the big things start happening. We have so much fear coming up. What is the real fear? What is the real fear of? And we have to go deeper and deeper and deeper. Is it rooted just in self-worth? And these are words also that get thrown around so much, but use the words that are going to really get to the feeling of what is going on inside of us. That's why it's happening. We can do all the other stuff. We can do all the superficial stuff to make a reality go away. We can pay the reality off, in a sense. You throw money at it to get it to go away, but we don't get to the root of it, and that's what we want to do. We have to get to the bottom of it. We can't window dress it and say, oh, it's about this, or oh, it's about this, or no, it's my responsibility to take care of this. Even though maybe I'm supposed to ask for assistance here, and it doesn't even matter if the assistance is given. That is not the point. The point is we work through the fear of, can I get through this asking for this? There is a lot of things where we do have to ask for things, and get assistance. If we've always assisted others, that's a big part of the process for a lot of us for a while. If we've always been the one to take care of ourselves, someone else might take care of you for a while, maybe in that monetary sense. And that can shift and change, and then there's a point where, okay, now you got to do it for somebody else. It might be the same people, but now you're going to shift out of that, because there's a lot of people who got to stay stuck in that one, where, oh, everything is fully supported here, and they never move into being a supporter again, because they get into just wanting to be supported all the time. So that can be a pitfall that a lot of people will fall into and stay there for like long periods of time, even though the reality has played out and it's time for you now to go on and support others again. You can kind of want to stay in that cocoon, in the sense of being supported. So it's important to look at our self-worth. What are we bringing to a reality? Where do we not feel like we're equals in a reality to ask for something or not ask for something? Like I said, it's not really even about the act. It doesn't matter how those things pan out for us. The outcome of if we ask something or we do something, it doesn't pan out the way we wanted it to, or way our human would have said that was successful. Don't ever judge it. I'm going to use judgment again. It's probably not the word, but don't ever kind of try to put that turned out the way it should have turned out. It's always going to turn out the way it should have turned out. It might not turn out the way your human would say that's a win. You might go, well, that was an epic, didn't work out, but you still busted through something doing it. Doing it is the point. It doesn't matter how it pans out. Once you clear the program within yourself, you're going to let the reality realign, and it's going to be a much easier reality to go through. Because it's not about that thing. It's not about that. It's about getting to the bottom of it. And we have to get to the bottom of it. And I think I'm finally getting toward the bottom of it, because I'm starting to have emotions come up. That's a good sign we're getting to the bottom of it. What is this all about? Why did this happen? And we get out of the victim energy and they say, wow, I see why it happened. Look at all the shit it brought up. that I had to deal with that's going to increase my body vibration. That I can now go into a new reality without all this shit, without all the baggage, without all the, whatever you're working on. This last year for me has been a lot about my blood family and working through a lot of the distortions within blood family. And we all have those. That's been a lot of my year and pretty much the whole year. And I'm moving out of some of that. Majority of that, I feel. We'll see. There's always probably going to be a little bit here and there, but you start moving out next, you're going to be doing something else. So it's very important that we don't use the words that are going to kind of shut us off from really what we're trying to get to. Use the words that get the emotion. How does it feel? When you start feeling the emotions come up, I'm like, okay, I know I'm starting to get to it now. And sometimes you might just get the emotion out and then you realize, okay, I don't have to do any of this stuff. Maybe I can let this ride for a while and I'll be able to do this later. It's just getting the emotion out. And then you might be able to see what is aligned here for me to do. What is important here. So, okay, I think that's given it enough for now. So, okay, keep practicing the art of intuition.